Today, I'm going to be showing you one of the easiest ways to create a really simple rendering using a combination of a 3D modeling software and a hand rendering style of your choice. Now, this type of drawing is not only a really nice blend of personal flair and realistic dimensioning, but it's also just a really easy way for people who tend to struggle with creating a 3D or perspective drawing from scratch to be able to create a real staple piece or image for their portfolio or for their project. And this is true for me as well. When I started to learn how to draw perspectives, I really struggled with them. So in school, especially early on, this became kind of my go-to style to create a really fast and easy perspective render with the help of 3D modeling. Now, before we jump in, if you're new to the channel, my name is Carter, and here we talk and teach about all things landscape architecture and urban design. So be sure to check out more from my channel and subscribe if you're interested in that. And if you've been here before and you're not already subscribed, be sure to hit that sub button for me, as only 20% of my audience is actually subscribed to the channel. I really appreciate all the support as always. It's just been a lot of fun for me to create videos like these, so I hope to continue to do so in the future. But with all that aside, let's get started. So the design process for this video is pretty straightforward. We're going to take some type of plan rendering, export it, and bring it into SketchUp. And then from there, we're gonna do some basic modeling, set the perspective angle, set the dimensions, all those type of things. And then we'll bring it back and finish the hand rendering to make a final product. So for today's video, I have a quick plan sketch that I did of an urban streetscape bus stop drop-off area that I've done here on Morpholio Trace. Now, my drawing is to scale, but remember, it doesn't have to be. It just makes the process in SketchUp and exporting it and resizing it to draw over just a little bit faster. But if it's not scaled, don't worry about it. You can bring it in as is. So once you have your image all set and ready to go, let's make sure to export it, and I'll show you how to bring it into SketchUp. To bring that into SketchUp, you just want to head on over to File and then select Import, and then you'll import your file. Make sure that your image is not a PDF, as for whatever reason, SketchUp does not recognize PDF images, so just make sure that it's a JPEG, PNG, or something like that. Then hit OK and drop the image in and kind of scale it up to be roughly around the size of your drawing. Don't worry about if it's exact now, as we're gonna fix this in just a second. So now that your image is in here, let's go ahead and scale it by using the line tool and drawing a dimension that we know is in our drawing. In my case, I know that the path is 5 feet wide in between the two planners, so I'm gonna draw a line that's in the same orientation right next to that path. So as you can see, as I drew my 5-foot path here, you can see that the drawing is off a little bit. So we're gonna fix that by using the scale tool here. Now, if you're not seeing the toolbar in alignment like I am, then head on over to View and then select Toolbars, and be sure to turn on Getting Started, Large Tool Set, Measurements, Standard, and Views. And then you should be all set, and it should look like my screen here. Now, with that scale tool selected, click from one of the corners and drag out till you get the correct proportions. This can be a bit of trial and error sometimes. I wish there was kind of a better way to do this. If there is one that you know of, be sure to drop a comment below what that is. I'd really appreciate it. Remember, it doesn't need to be perfect here. Just make sure it's close. But now that it's in the correct order, make sure to move it back, and then it'll be all set to draw over. So for a drawing like this in SketchUp, I like to start by drawing a bunch of guidelines that will make up the majority of our drawings here. And then I will go in and start to fine tune once the outline is kind of done and organized. So for this drawing and this specific drawing, it's gonna be about setting the width to those paths, planters, and streets. So as you can see, as this is starting to develop, the areas will start to get filled in with a white mask. But continue to do guidelines for all of your line work, and then you'll have a drawing that starts to look roughly something like this. So the next step from here is to start to get rid of some of those extra lines and start to make some of the final adjustments before we make this into a 3D model. Additionally here, what I like to do is fill in and add the rest of the outline so that our drawing is going to be the square we started with, and it'll be all set, and we'll know exactly what areas to manipulate and what not to manipulate. So the first thing to do with this model is to start setting some elevations to the ground plane. For us, this is going to be by using the push-pull tool. For our drawing, it's pretty straightforward. We're going to want to set everything to that curb height, which tends to usually be about 6 inches. So let's go ahead and make everything that isn't the street 6 inches above it. So with that tool selected, you're gonna see that the area you're highlighting over is going to be the one that you can manipulate it. So be sure when it's highlighted, just click and start to drag it, and you'll see that you can manipulate it. To get kind of exact dimensions, you wanna click and start pulling in the direction that you want it to go, and then type in the specific amount. So for us, it's gonna be 6 inches. So then you'll be able to repeat the process like so. Now with SketchUp, you can either continue typing in 6 inches every time, or you can click and drag and highlight to an area that's already 6 inches on the top of that face, and it will bring that face you're manipulating to the top point of that one as well. But once you have that all set, let's go ahead and start to draw in some of the details for the planters and for that ramp. For the ramp, let's draw a 6-inch curb on the edges. To do so, we're gonna use the line tool again, and we're gonna type 6 inches from one of the corners, and then we're gonna follow through using the kind of axes to finish it off. Then repeat this on the other side, and your ramp will be ready to manipulate it in the next step. Then for our planters, we're gonna use a tool called the offset tool to help give this a realistic look with some retainment. For our roadside planters or edge condition planters, we're gonna use 6 inches so that it replicates the feel of a curb, so that'll be about 6 inches. And then for all the planters elsewhere, you can take your pick, but usually a planter edge that's kind of thin will be somewhere between 3 and 4 inches. A quick tip for this with the offset tool is if you need to repeat an offset over and over again in your SketchUp model, just double click when you're highlighted over the area you want to offset, and it will repeat the last input you made. So to drop down the ramp, you're gonna first need to select the top edge of that curb or that line, and then use the move tool, and then select it from the midpoint here, and then we're gonna hit the down arrow key on the keyboard and move it down till it's flush with the grade below, and then you'll have your nice and easy ramp. Then we're gonna do the planters. For our street edge condition, we're gonna raise this up by 1 foot, and then for the other planters, we're gonna stack it up from 2 to 3 feet. Then to finish this off and give some depth and retainment to this model, we're gonna wanna drop the inner portion of the planters in by about 3 or 4 inches. So go ahead and do all of that for all of your corresponding areas, and then your drawing will be looking something like this. Now the only thing left to do to finish up this model is going to be adding in your bus stop dialogue as well as your bus. You can do this in a couple different ways. You can either create your own from scratch, import something that you like from somewhere else, or use the 3D warehouse located here, and you'll be able to find some really nice pre-made ones already. So get those dropped in, oriented how you like, whatever style you like, and your image should be all set and ready to export. Before we go ahead and actually export the image, there's a couple things that we're gonna wanna do first. The first thing is head on over to Styles in your default tray over on the right and change it to Photo Modeling and select the second one. Then within that Scenes tab, you wanna click on the Edit tab, turn off Profiles, and then change the color from blue to black or some type of kind of grayish light to dark black. Then we're gonna wanna move around on our screen until we find some type of view that we like, and then we can go ahead and add a new scene. Then the last thing to do is make sure that your sun and shade is turned on. If it's not on, head on over to the View tab and toggle on Shadows. Then over back in that default tray, there'll be a Shadows tab drop down, and there you can change kind of the sun position, the time of year, the time of day. Just play around with it till you find something that you like, and then you'll be ready to export it. Now to export this image, make sure that your scene is clicked on and you're in that orientation that you like, and then head on over to File, Export, and then Export 2D Graphic. This will take kind of a fancy screenshot of whatever your view looks like at that time, so just save it in a place you like, and before you hit OK, make sure that you hit Options and make sure that the render is set to a really high quality, something like 1920 by 3455. But then from here, let's bring it back into Morpholio Trace and we can give it some real kind of life. Now, there's a few different ways you could go in terms of rendering styles. You could do something that is realistic and tries to emulate a real world feel, or you could do kind of a collage style that is something like this, or maybe even a pop of color in certain areas. The list really goes on here. But the way I'll show you today is one of my go-to favorites, just because it's just really easy to do and it makes it so that you can produce a lot of these for a project or a portfolio really quickly. And that is gonna be the pop of color or diagrammy look. So to do this, I usually start off by rendering in some people in a brighter color to liven up that space. Of course, by using Morpholio Trace, I can speed this process up even more by using the stencils built in here, but I really like to still kind of make them look sketchy by not filling them in all the way. So I chose the color red for this, but you can choose any color. You really just want to bring some pop and some energy into this drawing. The next step to bring some more color into this, I like to draw in some kind of rough outlines or gestures of plants. So for me, I have a few planter boxes here, so I'm going to render in using some shrubs and some ground covers. Again, I'm using the stencils and filling them in kind of this alternating pattern. Now remember that we're going for a more diagrammy look, so it doesn't need to be super realistic and super accurate. We're just trying to portray the idea that this is a planter box, this has all these things in here, and that there's people here, this is a lively space, lively environment. That's kind of what we're going for in this image. Next, we're gonna bring in some trees into the drawing, into our planter boxes to give some vertical color and to kind of encapsulate the space a little bit better and bring it together more. You can do this in any style. I'm just choosing to kind of fill it in, just to kind of take up some space vertically and kind of encapsulate the idea. But typically this is where I tend to stop in terms of color for this diagram. But if you wanted to go a little bit further, one of the things I like to do is with kind of a medium to a bright color is to color in something that might be important or the main theme of this drawing. So for me, that's actually going to be kind of the color of the bus stop area, the benches, because that's mainly what this is about. So you can always choose to go that route to bring some color to some highlighted areas that are important here. But once you're happy with where your drawing is at, it should look more or less something like this. Lastly is going to be adding in some dimensions and callouts to this diagram, as it will help bring some more context to the drawing and help it bring it back and make it look like more of a work in progress, more of a diagram, rather than this kind of long, fancy rendered product. So things you want to call out and bring attention to dimension-wise are what's important to the drawing. So for us, we know that it's a streetscape, so it's about the drop-off area, the paths, and those relationships. So be sure to get all of those in, choose a dialogue you like, choose a theme that you like, and it should be all set. Now you might be feeling with this type of diagram that it could feel a little bit unfinished because there's not that much color to it. So you could continue to color in a way by maybe rendering in the background a little bit or the foreground with some type of color to make it not look so white and pale. But it's completely your preference, and with that aside, this is what that final drawing could look like. I'm actually pretty happy here with the result, and I definitely can see myself and have used it many times before for a final rendering that maybe supports a master plan or a section. And I would tend to maybe do 2 or 3 of these because they can be done, really quickly in a half hour, and they're just really great supplementary actions or items for your design. Especially by kind of utilizing the diagrammy aspect, they can kind of stand alone and tell a story and supplement some of these things that are typically 2-dimensional in a 3-dimensional way. So let me know in the comments below on what you thought of this type of diagram and if this style of rendering was kind of cool to you or you liked to do. And be sure to let me know what other things and what other types of drawings, information, content you would like to see in the future from Design It Green. And if you found this video interesting or helpful in some type of way, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with a friend, as they could use this information as well. But that is all for today's video, so thank you for taking the time with me. I hope you enjoyed the content, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.